These are the top DBA challenges. I explained a few of the things already earlier. So you should be in position to keep your database up to current patch levels, diagnosing database performance problems, managing security threats, managing more database with same resources, and identifying the resource intensive SQL in real time, tracking configurations and compliance purposes, promoting DB changes from dev test to production. This is most important because the application team used to develop some sort of code that would have done some certain testing. Of course, without testing, some application team wants to promote those changes to productions. So you should be in position to ask the logs that the development are testing logs before you promote to productions. As a DBA, you are the decision maker. So whatever you guide them, they should follow. You should guide them professionally and based on the business, the current trends, guide them so that once it goes to productions, you won't face any sort of issues. And provisioning, testing, and development systems, of course, this is much needed. Dealing with rapidly growing database structures, because when the database goes live, you may see some dramatic growth in the databases. You should be in position to do some sort of maintenance activities in the database so that the customers or business would not have an issues, whether it could be performance or manageability wise, scalability wise, everything. And performing repetitive tasks, this is very less. Most of the DBA challenges falls under the resource intensive SQL query and then keeping your database up to date. That is because Oracle releases patch set every 3 months. You should be applying it in the your database to make sure it runs to the latest patch level. The reason being is whenever you have issues and and if you're not in position to diagnose it, and when you want to engage Oracle, they would obviously come back and say, please apply the latest patch set. Then we'll see, because Oracle has been releasing the patch set every 3 months. The common problems, the most of the bug fixes has been done in the latest patch levels. So you should make sure you apply the latest patch levels, and things can go fine. And when it comes to the roles view, this is just to have a recap of the earlier slides. What are your roles involved? Performance tuning is the most important thing. 25%. This is just the rough figures, and troubleshooting also comes under this one. So 50% of the DBA roles would go into troubleshootings and corrective actions, and then performance tuning. Then comes to the installation, upgrade, patch, and migrations, monitoring, backup and recovery is important. Another key important things, and data load and replications. When you talk about replications, we have within Oracle, we have Oracle Data Guard, which replicates the data to the other site, and there are other replication methodology available in the market. We'll just touch base those things. This is all just a roles overview. You can keep this diagram in your mind to see what is the DBA roles. Again, it all depends on the customer, the company's requirement. There are companies who actually needs only the performance tuning expert. There are companies who needs only the DBA to manage the existing applications to upgrade, patching, migrations. It varies. The business needs are various. The customer needs are various. So you should be in position to work whatever the business wants it at the end of the day. So this is the end of in the previous slides. This is the end of the DBA sessions. I mean the Oracle RDBMS sessions which I covered. And another 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes, we'll be talking about the cloud and other databases. So far, any doubt in the Oracle RDBMS? Please raise your questions in the mic, or you can type in the chat window before we get into the Oracle clouds. Any doubts? All right, we'll go to next slide. Even if you have any doubts in the future, what is the difference between mirror, stripe, RAID functions, and ASM functions? So mirroring, striping, raidings all comes under storage. First three you typed: mirror, stripe, RAIDs. comes under the storage point of view. Of course, ESM has its own mirroring. So when it comes to a mirroring, say when something, having said in the earlier cases, when the disaster recovery happens, and the storage team says the data stored in one sort of disk, one sort of combination of disk had been corrupted. Of course, you will be having the same mirror copy in the other area. So you can restore the database from the mirroring area. It is something like you have two copies, one copy has got corrupted, you can restore from other copies. That is called mirroring. Striping, in the sense to have the better IO balance, striping comes into picture, and then the RAID functions. When you talk about RAID functions, there are different RAIDs, 5, 4, 0, based on the business, based on the storage needs, and each plays its own roles, each has its own pros and cons of it. When it comes to when you want to relate those mirroring, striping, or RAID functions into ESM, when you implement or install ESM, obviously you need to it would ask for your input to say what level of redundancy you want. If you choose to be an external redundancy, which means you are relying on the storage mirroring, you are not requesting Oracle to keep the multiple copies of it, so Oracle won't have multiple copies. If you choose an Oracle ESM functions to be normal redundancy, Oracle would keep 2 copies of each blocks. And if you choose the ESM functions to be the external, the one more redundancy is there. So Oracle would keep 2 copies of it. It's based on your criticality of the databases, you can decide what level of ESM functions you need to choose for it. In our company, because the commitment has been made by the storage administration, because the storage is being managed by IBM, we do not give any sort of normal redundancy. We just give external, and then we rely on our own copy. Something happens, storage team should be able to give the copy of it, and we should be able to restore it. But having said earlier, when it comes to Oracle Exadata, where there is no storage admin, we are the storage admins for Oracle Exadata, and we should be in position to choose. In our environment, Oracle Exadata, we have normal redundancy. That is 2 copies of it. It is nothing but to have multiple copies in terms of disaster recovery, something corrupted, to restore it. Hope I answered the questions. If not, please type feedback. I will be answering it. Yeah, of course. See, we can. Yeah, see, correct. You are correct. See, we can use mirror disk instead of ESM. Then why we have to go for ESM? See, in our environment, the mirroring is nothing but because they have only 4-5 IO groups, and we are having 350 production databases plus 800 non-production databases. All the databases using the common storage in the within that IO groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when the storage team gives the disk, they may, based on, if you ask for, if you as a DBA, if as usual routine task is to give some sort of disk, if the database is going to be 250 GB, I would be asking please give 50 GB chunk. When it gives 50 GB chunk, the storage admin may give 50 GB chunk from the IO groups of 1, 2, and 3. But in order to get the IO balance, when you don't use an ESM, and if you want to store the data, the single data file, the single data file size can be GB up to 30 GB based on the OS limitations. The entire 30 GB files would go and sit into IO group. So when you want to retrieve the data, the Oracle has to go and keep fighting the IO groups to retrieve those needs. Assume your end user needs some sort of 2 GB data out of 30 GB. So Oracle has to go and look for everything into IO group 1, because the entire data file has been created into Oracle IO group 1. If at all, if it's ESM case, what Oracle ESM would do is, it divides the chunks, 50 GB chunks. Of course, Oracle, the storage admin has given 50 GB chunks, but what ESM does it at the background, when you allocate those disks into ESM, it divides the chunk into MBs. That is 50 GB into 5, it restores, it stores the data like 4 MB into first 50 GB, next 4 MB into next 50 GB, and then next 4 MB into next 50 GB. So data is eventually distributed. There is no chance of IO contention happens into the database. Though the IBM storage admin has its own kind of mirroring or the IO balancing, still they would recommend the database servers to implement ESM, because ESM helps to get the database data distributed across all the available disks. Additional to the mirroring, it is additional benefit to the mirroring. Mirroring is nothing but to have multiple copies. When you talk about striping, it of course it helps to distribute the data and to get the performance on time without any IO contention. There are certain things has to be done at the IO level as well, which we will be talking about when we learn about Oracle database, how the Oracle database stores into Linux, and then we will cover those things. Hope I answered the questions. If not, please write back, and we'll proceed with the next few slides. This is just a quick view, Oracle on-premises versus cloud services. When you talk about on-premise, everything you own it. Your company owns everything: application, data, runtime, storage, networking. When you want to talk about IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service, the virtualization, servers, storage, networking are completely managed by the vendor. You just need to store your data and run your applications. When you buy a platform as a service, platform as a PaaS, that is platform as a service, you just stores only the application and data, and rest everything is managed by the vendors. Similarly, software as a service, the entire things, including your data, would be stored into the clouds. So you just need to run your applications. That's it. There's a basic comparison between the on-premises, what we host, versus cloud services. And what Oracle Cloud Database does it? When you talk about, see, is highlighted here is the regular automated one. It is automated provisioning and configurations. Management and development tools has been completely automated, high availability, because Oracle, having said earlier when we talked about RAC, with the Oracle Cloud Databases, the RAC implementation is just matter of implementing the things in maximum of 10 minutes. So you will be able to configure your RAC databases into RAC, but should be in the cloud. So it's Oracle duty to manage everything in terms of patching, upgrade, backup and restore, scale up, everything. So key metrics is the next one, and then scaling up. What is scaling up in the sense? If you find any sort of resource crunch for CPU, memory, and IOs, you can always request for additional resources to add the CPUs or memories if you want, after tuning your sequels. Because when you order a resource, you should make sure you are done your things well. You are done your tuning part well. As a database administrator, you made sure all the queries are running properly. There is no problem in the queries, and it ideally needs the additional resources to manage it. Then you can go for additional resources because it's a cost.